oh, the fix is in. It's not that. They just messed it up, and it happens, and it's part of the game, but unfortunately it happened on that play.
I did what I was told to do, did how we did it in practice all week, and that's probably all I'm really going to touch on with that.
It looked like Jared did tell you to go over there, and you were all over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The NFL has had its worst officiating this season since the 2012 referee lockout, and it's cost multiple teams wins this season, and it's been more apparent than ever. From the mess that was made at the end of the Packers-Chiefs Sunday Night Football game, to the refs throwing a flag on Kyler Gordon for taking his helmet off because it was broken after being punched in the face, the NFL has had terrible officiating all year. However, just last week, the NFL might have had its worst officiating all season, and it might have just cost a team the number one seed in the NFC. Now, was there an agenda? Was it rigged? Will there be any repercussions? Most importantly, is there a way to fix the mess that is currently the NFL's officiating epidemic? Before we get to the content, I wanted to apologize that this video got to you guys late. We're a little backloaded because we took a little bit of a break this past weekend. Make sure you check out our channel memberships program if you want to get some of this content a little earlier. And now that we get all that out of the way, work! We made $1,100 off of a $20 entry on Prize Picks. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone that followed these picks on my Instagram story. And the best feeling is the amount of people that made money as a result of this. I mean, bam, bam, bam. Bam! My DMs were flooded, so the best part for me was seeing you guys make money as well. But we're not done yet. If you haven't signed up for Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone to double your deposit up until $100 on Prize Picks. And I give away my picks on a daily basis for free on my Instagram story and now my Snapchat story. We're having so much fun doing this. I'm so happy that I made you guys some money. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? After a season's worth of officiating blunders, the NFL had its worst incident to date on Saturday Night Football when the Detroit Lions visited the Dallas Cowboys in a matchup that could determine the NFC's #1 overall seed. The game was going well. It was absolutely riveting to watch and was on pace to being a Lions classic after Jared Goff heroically drove the Lions down the field to score a go-ahead touchdown with just over 20 seconds to go in the game. Seems like Jared Goff really wanted revenge on Dak Prescott, since Dak Prescott is known as the best quarterback out of his own draft class, whereas Jared Goff was a #1 overall pick in that draft class. So you knew this one's personal. The Lions had the choice to either kick the extra point to tie the ball game, which would force overtime, or go for the 2-point conversion and take a 1-point lead with just over 20 seconds left in the game. We all know Dan Campbell isn't going to be and is going to try to win the game right then and there. So the Lions chose to go for 2 to end the game right then and there. And after a perfect play call, which saw Lions left tackle Taylor Decker leak out to the left side of the end zone, then go up and grab the ball, the Lions had converted the 2-point conversion and led the Cowboys by 1 point, which meant Dak Prescott had 23 seconds to drive down the field and kick a field goal to win the game, which is something that Dak Prescott is totally capable of doing. But there was just one problem. About 10 or 15 seconds after the play was over, which is a suspicious amount of time by the way, the referees had thrown a flag on Taylor Decker for illegal touching. So for those of you guys that don't know, in order for an offensive lineman to catch the football, they must report as an eligible wide receiver to the head referee before the ball is snapped. So case closed, right? Well, Decker didn't report as eligible, and that's why there was a flag, right? Well, no, as seen in the replay, Taylor Decker actually did report as eligible, and the head referee, Brad Allen, either didn't hear him or just ignored him, which in either case, Brad Allen is 100% at fault and simply didn't take his job seriously enough. I mean, guys, this is coming from a Dallas Cowboys fan. You know, I wanted my favorite team to win this game so freaking badly. If there's a person that would have a bias for the Cowboys, it would be me. But I can't look at this moment where Taylor Decker is quite literally in front of Brad Allen
saying, "Yo, I'm eligible,"
and then Brad Allen says he didn't report as eligible. After the game was over, Allen even went as far as to say that Decker didn't report as eligible, but backup lineman Dan Skipper did. But in the video, you can clearly see that Skipper never even makes direct eye contact with Brad Allen and never even spoke with him, which is yet another blunder you can place solely on Brad Allen. Now, it's hard to attribute this amount of ignorance to Brad Allen, who had been a referee since 2014, but honestly, what else can you attribute this much of a mess up to? The referees messing up the first 2-point conversion meant the Lions had another opportunity backed up 5 yards, which they couldn't convert, and yet another opportunity on the 2-yard line since Micah Parsons was offsides in the second 2-point attempt, which they also failed. But that's still unfair to the Lions. When a team is going for a 2-point conversion, they have only one play at the goal line they feel best about, and that's the play they choose. Since the Lions already called that play, that meant that they had to rely on what was their second or third best play to convert the 2-point attempt, which is unfair to the Detroit Lions since they didn't deserve the penalty on the first 2-point conversion in the first place. Now, to be fair to the Cowboys, there was still 23 seconds after the 2-point conversion attempt, and they also did have a timeout. So in theory, after a touchback, all Dallas needed was about 30 or 40 yards to have a game-winning field goal attempt, which, by the way, they had the best kicker in the NFL on their roster as well, in Brandon Aubrey. I'm kind of bummed out because no matter what the situation was, whether the Lions converted on 2 or they just tied the game at 20, this could have been a really cool ending. This game was super intense up until that moment, and even the failed 2-point conversions were very, very intense plays. And I know I said that the Detroit Lions burned their best 2-point conversion attempt with the Taylor Decker play, but my response to that is, if you go for 2 and you don't get it, and now you're backed up significantly, which reduces your chances of getting the 2-point conversion, at what point should Dan Campbell sit there and say,
Okay, our odds at converting the 2-point conversion have minimized significantly. Maybe we should kick the extra point and depend on our defense, who,
by the way, has been doing a solid job on the Cowboys throughout that entire game,
to try to hold down the fort so we could send this bad boy into overtime.
There is a part of this that is Dan Campbell's fault as well, but I will admit the initial call wasn't the right call. Taylor Decker was eligible in my opinion. Now, this is a huge problem for the NFL because with all of the questionable calls this season, fans have started to wonder if the NFL is either rigging games or the referees are missing or making bad calls for a particular purpose. One theory is, of course, that with the growth of sports gambling, the NFL is either asking referees to do certain things in the game to favor a certain outcome, or the gambling bookies themselves are reaching out to referees in order to influence outcomes. This theory comes along with the fact that after the US Supreme Court overturned the national ban on sports gambling in 2018, according to statistics, the industry has seen over 7 times more money bet on sports, which means there is more money than ever being waged on athletics. Now, first and foremost, there is no current evidence that the NFL, NBA, NHL, or MLB is openly being manipulated, and blown and missed calls have been a thing in sports since the very beginning, but it's always a good thing for people to speculate about these things because it keeps organizations like the NFL in the spotlight so they can't actually rig games. Odds are, the NFL didn't rig this game, or any other games this season. And as for the Brad Allen situation at the end of the Lions-Cowboys game, it is already being speculated by major news organizations that Brad Allen and his referee crew will not be allowed to referee in the upcoming NFL playoffs. Now, this certainly doesn't fix the debacle that occurred at the end of the game, but take it from Jared Goff himself.
Unfortunate it came down to what it did, and I don't think it was, there was no, the fix is in. There's not that. They just messed it up, and it happens, and it's part of the game, but unfortunately it happened on that play.
And what Jared Goff is saying is right. These things happen, and instead of speculating why or how is the NFL rigging games, it's more productive to talk about how the NFL can fix the poor officiating that we are seeing this season. For starters, the NFL can start by actually holding their referees accountable. So that can start with making referees attending refereeing seminars or camps when they mess up calls. Another thing the NFL could do to start holding referees accountable is making it mandatory for them to explain their calls to players and even fans. After the game, Taylor Decker said this.
They didn't tell me anything after the play. All I really want to say on it, just so I don't get myself into trouble, is, I did exactly what Coach told me to do, and went to the ref, said report, and I don't know. And it's my understanding too that Dan brings up the possibility of those sorts of plays pregame. So I did what I was told to do, did how we did it in practice all week, and that's probably all I'm really gonna touch on with that.
It looked like Jared did tell you to go over there, and you were all over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's not much more I can add to it. You can see the video of it. is what it is, I guess.
The XFL already does this. They'll show a broadcast of the referee explaining what happened and why the call is what it is. But aside from making referees explain their calls to players, it should be mandatory that the referees must attend pregame meetings with the coaches. After the Cowboys-Lions game, Lions head coach Dan Campbell said he told the referees about this exact play in their pregame meeting. Guess what? The head referee, Brad Allen, wasn't in attendance for the meeting, which is just mind-boggling. What's even more mind-boggling is that this is a common occurrence, as it's not mandatory for the head referee to be in attendance for the pregame meeting. To sum up what the NFL needs to do in one concise sentence, they need to have more quality control, more accountability, and stricter standards for the referees. It's that simple. Until then, we will continue to see referees be lackadaisical on the field and not have the care or respect they should have for the game. Now, let me know what you think the NFL needs to do. Is it really referee incompetence, or do you think the games are just being rigged? What should the NFL do to the refs if they continue to mess up calls? And at the end of the day, how do you feel about the Cowboys versus Lions game? Do you think the referees messed up that game? Do you think the Lions had 3 opportunities to get a 2-point conversion, or at least settle to tie the game and send it to overtime, so they shouldn't complain? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.